Well, happy Sunday all. What's today? It's May 22nd, 2022. 5-2-2-2-2. Anyway, hope everyone's having a nice day. The weather's beautiful. As you can see, I wanted to talk about a few things. Now, we're going to take a trip back in time, but before we go, let's just touch base on a couple of things. You see, now, during the whole 2-year thing that happened with SARS-CoV-2, COVID-19, hospitals were incentivized to use WHO protocols when treating patients. This is whether it was PCR tests, use of remdesivir, ventilators. Overall treatment, they got a monetary payout for this. Even if they treated somebody and that person died, they got additional funds. This is not disputed. This is what it was, and I get it. Pandemic. But you see, I found this out, and we're gonna go back. I'm gonna go back in time. We're gonna go back to the 1530 to be exact. See, there was a book written by Francois Bonneval. See, he was a nobleman who lived during that time period. He lived from 1493 to 1470. He was a historian. He was a nobleman. He was a political activist. Went to jail a few times because, he didn't keep his mouth shut. But anyway, so what he did, he wrote a book called The Chronicles of Geneva, Switzerland. You see, during that time, they had a thing called the Black Plague. So, or the Bubonic Plague, whatever it is, it was bad. It was bad. So anyway, this is a paper. You see right there, see the plague outfit. This is just us. This was from pages 395 to 402. So I'm just going to read this, see if it rings a bell. See if it rings a bell. And remember what I said about what hospitals did today. So it says here, when the bubonic plague struck Geneva in 1530, everything was ready. See, it was going on in other parts of Europe, so they had an idea, this thing's migrating up here, we better do something. So they even opened a whole hospital for plague victims, with doctors, nurses, I guess, first responders to take the people to the hospitals, paramedics, I don't know what they were called back then, I don't know that were, whatever they were, they put through in a wheelbarrow and brought you to the hospital. The traders contributed. Everybody contributed. The traders, the people who did trades in the city, contributed money. The magistrate, which is the local government, gave grants every month to this hospital to contain this issue. The patients always gave money. The patients paid to be taken care of. And if one of those patients died alone, meaning he had no family or they couldn't contact anyone that this person was associated with, all the goods that this person owned, be it land or whatever is in his pockets, went to the hospital. Okay, fair enough. They're trying to do the right thing. But then disaster happened. The plague was dying out. Really? So kind of ran its course. Herd mentality, man. Herd immunity. Well, I don't know if it was herd immunity or it was just dying out. People got, maybe they got the brilliant idea to wash, or maybe they shouldn't have killed all the cats in England. That was part of it, because it was spread by rodents and fleas. So, cleanliness. Anyway, wash your hands. The plague was dying out, whilst the subsidies to the hospital depended on the number of patients. More patients, more money. More money, more problems. There was no question of right and wrong for the Geneva hospital staff of 1530. If the plague produces money, then the plague is good. Hey, it's bringing us money. Dude, we're rolling in the dough, eh? And then the doctors got organized. You might say, what did they do? At first, they just poisoned patients to raise the mortality statistics, okay? But they quickly realized that the statistics didn't have to be just about mortality, but about mortality from the plague. When it got, you went, dude, this guy died? No, did he die of plague? Well, no. Well, that's a problem. So they began to cut the boils. See, the Black Plague had boils. Pox. Monkeypox, eh? So they cut the boils from the bodies of the dead, dried them, ground them into mortar, and then gave them to other patients as medicine. Whoa! Talk about maniacal, eh? Then they started dusting clothing, handkerchiefs, and garters. But somehow the plague continued to abate. It was, even with this, it was not. Apparently, the dried boils didn't work well. Doctors went into town and spread bubonic powder on door handles at night, selecting those homes where they could profit the most. The rich people, or the middle class, or whatever they were at the time. An eyewitness wrote of these events. This remained hidden for some time. But the devil is more concerned with increasing the number of sins than hiding them. In short, one of the doctors became so impudent and lazy that he decided to wander to the city at night. But simply, he wasn't just going around dusting doorknobs at night. He decided to go in the middle of the day. And he threw a bundle of dust into the crowd. So what happened was, there was a survivor who recovered from the plague, and she kind of knew what that smell was. As an eyewitness wrote, this remained, by chance, had recently come out of the hospital. One of the girls discovered what the smell was. I guess it had a certain pungency to it. Pocket full of posies, right? The doctor, and so they pounced on this guy. The doctor was placed in good hands. They pounced him, tied him up, and he was placed in the hands of competent craftsmen, because they're like, dude, this guy's running around trying to spread plague. They tried to get as much information out of him as possible. I guess, they tried, poking him with things. So, soft pillows and spatulas. However, they tried as much information. However, the execution lasted several days. So they were just torturing him to death. The ingenious Hippocrates. So after they found out, right, that he was from the hospital and that he was doing this because the hospital realized, hey, the government's giving us money to keep this thing going, right? The ingenious Hippocrates, the doctors, the Hippocratic Oath, so they went to the hospital and they were tied to poles on wagons and carried around the city. And at each intersection, the executioner used red-hot tongs to tear pieces of meat from the doctors. They were then taken to the public square, beheaded and quarantined, and the pieces were taken and distributed about Geneva. See what happens? You see what happens when enough people wake up and see the atrocities you're doing? So there was one exception. There was one exception to a person that worked in a hospital. And the only exception was the hospital director's son, who did not take part in the trial, but blurted out that he knew how to make the potions and how to prepare the powder. And he said this out of fear, without fear of contamination. He told them how they did it. So what'd they do? Well, they just cut his head off. They were compassionate. But you see, wow, that's like what they're doing in hospitals today. I don't know, not to that extent, but they're following the guidelines of the WHO. Because think about it, how many people who had COVID, I think like 95% of them died in hospitals of the deaths. Yeah, they weren't pulling people out of apartment buildings. They weren't pulling people off the sidewalks. Actually, I don't even think any of the homeless died. See, people, are the same. Doesn't matter what decade, doesn't matter what century. They're the same. They're the same. They're guided by greed at any expense. Unbelievable. And like I said, so ironically, once again I'm talking about this because it's just a trip back in time, but this happened in Geneva, and what we have going on in Geneva right now is the World Health Organization is having a World Global Alliance, Health Alliance. They're having a big meeting this week to say that they will control everything in the result of a pandemic, epidemic, or just a emergency health situation. Health emergency. I don't know what that could be. It might eventually boil down to heart attacks or people stubbing their toe too many times. Don't know. But, the United States giving away its sovereignty. And it's... Come on, people. You don't see this? You don't see this? We don't see this. There's just fractions of people. There's the people that understand science and math, things that are constant, especially math, and then there's reason, logic, morals, these type of things, and then there's that other side of the spectrum. See, everybody right now is in an abusive relationship, and this is almost worldwide. They're in an abusive relationship with the government. They kind of rely on them to keep stuff going. They pay them taxes, but the people who are running the governments just have absolute disdain for the people that they're governing. They hate them. They want to get rid of them. They don't like them. It's just ridiculous. Like I said, you have one people that understand what's going on and they realize, hey, this isn't right. But they don't exactly know what to do because they've made everything seem almost moot. Elections, because the election in Australia was just taken erroneously, in my opinion. The election in France was taken erroneously, in my opinion. In my opinion. This has just happened. So, and then you have the people, like I said, you have the people that kind of know what's going on. I guess I would fall into that. But what do? I don't know. Peacefully protest? Do you just demand resignations? How? Almost every aspect of the government's compromised. Courts, police, the alphabet agencies, FBI, DOJ, CIA, IRS, they're all compromised. The presidency's compromised. Supreme Court, I don't know, that people are threatening them. I don't know. They're compromised. They're just like, Jesus, what do we do here? Then you got the Senate, Congress, absolutely, House of Representatives, compromised. They don't do anything. And like I said, then you have the other side, and they know that something's wrong. They could see it too, but they have what you call Stockholm Syndrome. They're just going along with it because, it's the party, man. I gotta support the party. I gotta support the party. No matter what insanity they try to put down their throat. Whether it's like biology, simple biology, or simple math. 2 plus 2, does it equal 5? Well, no, all this subjective bullshit. No, there's certain things that are absolutes. Math's an absolute. Biological science or biology is an absolute. Crazy. I know I'm ranting today, but... So there you go. Funny thing happened during the Black Plague. Parallels, eh? Things don't change. People don't change. Technology changes. I don't know. Guess we're getting ready for the big reset. Build back better. Yeah, build back never. Anyway, y'all have a wonderful day. Peace.